That's fantastic. So the people at East Denver are going to be able to see the gorgeous, long, flowing locks of Patches. If you've never seen it in real life, it is something to behold. Almost almost a magical level. So I want to ask you because you did mention kind of open source tools that kind of brought you into the Web3 space, kind of being a tech nerd and an innovation nerd. Um, in the future, as HGraphIO and Turtle Moon develop out, is there plans on the roadmap to open source some of the tooling? Is it kind of a mixed bag between the business development aspect of where Turtle Moon's at right now and making sure that that's bootstrapped out enough? Or do you have plans to open source anything, or what does that look like for you guys moving forward?
Yeah, no, we definitely, when we're building, we always look at what can we open source and when. It's definitely, I'm a firm believer in open source technology. We're building on a network that's open source, so I might as well, try to lean into that ethos. I think the most tangible open source thing that's going to be coming soon is going to be from HGraphIO, and it is open source, but it's really an npm package. It's going to streamline the usage of Hedera. I have over, let's say, 1,000 scripts that I just have on my computer that I use to do different things like airdropping or um, token gating, sensing association. And we're working on building out our first npm package, or SDK is another way to think of it, and that'll allow you to um, simply talk to things like the consensus service or the file service or the token service through an npm package. So one layer of ease on top of the Hedera npm package that it all currently exists. And so I'm really excited for that to come out. And we're also going to be looking to add things as we go forward, such as the point system that we're building out with Hgraph Punks and Turtle Moon, to add into the npm package. So it'll be base functionality first, but we do have a lot of ideas to continually expand it to build really specific use cases for metaverse, for gaming, for NFT marketplaces, so that it's like stupid easy. It's like get user wallet ID, all NFTs with that. Just show me the name and the metadata IPFS link. Boom, that's what you get. So it's just enhancing our service to be a lot easier to get up and running on Hedera.
Yep, and I think you mentioned it previously. To hit Solana volumes and value and liquidity, kind of traded across the network, even from the NFT standpoint, that's like a representing from where Hedera is at right now, like an 8x in growth. But understanding that I think that we've already kind of passed the tipping point for the Web3 ecosystem, Internet of Value type aspects. We all kind of know where blockchain distributed ledger technology ends up. When you start getting into that 50, 70, 100x standpoint from volumes and transactions, that's a lot of, we go through these boom and bust cycles, but it's a lot of real value and real tools and real usability being built out. So I guess the question that I would like to ask you is, based on where we're at now, what are some of the greatest milestones and achievements that you believe, whether that has been facilitated through Turtle Moon and HGraphIO, that the network has achieved over the past year? And what do you think are the necessary tools that need to be implemented to really get us to kind of that next step of kind of what that 50 or 70x or whatever it may be in volume and value being transmitted across the network? What does that look like to you over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be?
Ooh, it's like five questions in that question. Um,
I am notorious for doing that. I'm sorry.
my brain's spinning. You're like, name all the things that were cool that happened the last year and everything that's going to happen in the future. I think is what it was.
But yes, yeah,
um,
please go ahead. The floor is yours.
yeah, I'll try to. Let me know if I go off topic. I'll try to hit what you just asked. So over the last year, I think we've definitely had a lot of big moments. I think some of them weren't as celebrated because like we're here every day, so it's like it's just not noticeable because we're really, really close to the brick wall. We're not stepping back and seeing how tall it is. I would say one of the biggest things is going to help our adoption is HashPack having email login. I can't overstate enough how that simplifies user experience onboarding to Web3. It's insanity. And then the way they did it by using Magic Auth allowed that it's still using DID tokens. It's still using methods that are Web3, but it allows you to tell your grandma to go log in, just put in an email and HashPack, boom. Okay, you now have a wallet on a blockchain. That's not a blockchain, it's a Hashgraph, whatever. But you have them onboarded. So the biggest thing for us to grow our audience is onboarding. Um, if the friction is hard, if our main wallet sucks, we're not getting anyone to adopt. It's just not. I mean, I go into different chains. I go to Tezos. I go to Ada. I go to VeChain, and I experience all these different wallets. And I think our crown jewel right now for onboarding is how smooth HashPack is, and the UX of HashPack is just really easy for non-technical people to understand, and it's a not easy feat. So having people sign in through email is huge. We're thinking of ways that you can get people to onboard through solutions that are targeted towards much bigger people than just one company. Not going to go too far into that, but it's only enabled through that. So that not the hard part, but that I think is going to show itself its weight in gold as we onboard more people. Um, I think another really good time, really good moment throughout the last year was Hangry's Mint going, 100% smooth. The fact that there was so much hype around that mint, and most people I've met in VeChain that know about Hedera found out about Hedera through Hangry. Solana people came over. It was, it was all of the NFT projects on Hedera are how we got there. But Hangry was the straw on the camel's back that got people's attention, right? And then having a smooth minting process when everyone was looking at us to see if our network could take that much, 500 requests per second. We could. We did. It was smooth. It was nice. And that showed a lot of people that Hedera has a good underlying technology that is worth, checking out a little bit. Um, the, I guess, what else? I guess open sourcing
This is where
Hedera.
you get into the weeds of that. I was just asked 15 questions in 20 seconds.
Open source, I think, happened in the last year. It probably did, and that I think was another huge hit to people's criticism of Hedera. I love the fact that they didn't get bullied by the market and open source too early. They really did it when they were ready. And as a creator of open source software, it, you can open source it at the beginning, but when you do, you lose control and direction, and then it's more nuanced to get where you want to go. It makes much more sense to take it to a place that it's firmly got guardrails in the direction you want it to go, and then you say, okay, now we're ready. So I think I'm just gonna leave it at those three things for the biggest moments in the last year.
I
The
think
things that
you touched
sorry.
on it too. Oh, no. If you were going to go into what's going to drive mass adoption, please go ahead.
Right, yeah, that's where I was going. So my perspective, Turtle Moon hat on, HGraphIO hat on, we're looking at giant enterprise solutions, soup to nuts, that allow ease of onboarding of major corporations to use Hedera. Like, the only reason Starbucks chose Polygon isn't because Polygon's the best network for Starbucks to go to. It's because they have an infrastructure and a company, and they built everything that Starbucks can say, here's money, do thing. And that team and that technology was built to do that thing. And so I think that's the next step of Hedera. Like, we have great projects, we have great ecosystems, we have great developers. Now putting them all together to create one enterprise use case with easy wallet sign on, good platform, good backend API, green, amazing DLT, soup to nuts, top to bottom, full use case execution. That's what we're going to need to see in the next year. That's what we're working on at HGraphIO and Turtle Moon, talking to other partners throughout the ecosystem, and that's what is the uh, in my perspective, that you get one win, then you get exponential win from people looking at it, seeing the news. It's a really big marketing moment for Hedera and adoption, plus the massive amount of people that are going to have to onboard just for the use case that corporation's using. So that to me is the focus, and makes sense that we should be able to beat Polygon at getting major corporations to say, hey, we're going to support Hedera and build on Hedera because I gave them money and now I have my product and I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point too, because I know that you delve out into multiple ecosystems. I mean, you have delved out into the you know Twitter Spaces on with XRPL community members. You've went out into Twitter Spaces with VeChain community members, and all these communities are building really amazing tools and solutions for not only community but mass adoption in Web3. I think the one interesting thing to touch base on with when you look at something like Hedera is really like where we were at a couple of years ago, and looking at everything that's really been built from the community standpoint that has synergy in what these enterprises are really looking for. Like when you see so many different projects building out so many different ecosystems, building out so many different tools within the Hedera network, um, I think that probably sparks a good amount of interest from the enterprises as well, because they know that, like, hey, if these community members can bootstrap it out based on artwork or based on simple tools that can be built, I mean, it's just a little bit of a welcoming environment. So is that kind of what your the thought process as far as where we were at before, and knowing all the tools that you guys are continuing to build, is that kind of the incentivization that some of these enterprises are going to, do you think that they're looking at the stuff that's been built out from community? um you know I can't think of another
No,
network that's done things like that. So
I mean, no. Hedera is currently 31 ranked coin. It's different than a blockchain. So even if someone thought they knew what they were talking about in a corporate research position, I highly doubt they would get it. I don't think they look for small community stuff. I think if anything, like the LGTV marketplace would be what they'd look at, because it's another enterprise adoption of the network in a live use case. They wouldn't, I think it's an assumption, and I think it's a fair assumption that when in an enterprise that from that perspective, just because someone can do it at a small scale doesn't mean you can do it. And so just because it's been validated that this could happen on this network, it's like, okay, but what happens when there's 100 million people doing that? Like what happens when a million people try to go through this? And so the answer of scale isn't answered to them from developer applications from my point of view. And when I was, C-level at an enterprise, I didn't, I didn't do that. But if you looked at again, like LG, okay, well, there's another person who's going to have a huge throughput. That's a huge amount of onboarding, and they've decided to go with Hedera. We see they're on the council, so maybe they just did it to prove out the tech that they believe in. But if they believe in it and they're using it, that's a reason. So what we need, that's great. And what we can do from a community aspect, again, is I think work together to create a soup to nuts solution, either through partnerships or some other mechanism, that is a purchasable, simplified. This is how it works. This is, again, like, let's just take Starbucks. This is the Starbucks rewards program. Come to Hedera. We have a rewards program. We white label it for you. It works. It works on scale. We can show you all of this. And then it's targeted and marketed towards enterprise onboarding. So I think it is its own beast. It deserves its own focus, and it will be the next step function of adoption from a enterprise level. I do want to add the Avery Dennison is one of the other things in the last year that helped. Like, every conversation I've had as HGraphIO is so much easier now to say, like, well, Hedera is like the number one DLT in transactions per second right now. That's a very meaningful sentence, and I understand there's nuance there. People say Sol has more. If you disregard node to node communications that just make the network alive, Hedera has the most TPS for end user outside of the network getting value by paying money for a transaction to be processed. And so yeah, it's that's very helpful for the growth.
Yeah, and I think it should be noted. I mean that when we talk transactions per second and speed of these networks, I mean a lot of things or networks in theory can hit transactions per second. But I think what you're talking about right now is like what's actually occurring, whether that be consensus or whatever it may be on the network, what is actually occurring per second. Um, and yeah, there is. I think it's shoot. I'm gonna forget the website. Is it realtps.io or is it real TPS? There's a site that actually kind of drives that information forward. Um, you mentioned from HGraphIO's.
RealTPS.net.
Is it .net?
Sorry.
RealTPS.net. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and I know you mentioned kind of from the HGraphIO standpoint, and I know Sonia Orbis86, you're down there, so if you want to request to speak, please come up. Um, you mentioned kind of some of the forward thinking thought leadership aspects that HGraphIO is looking for enterprise solutions moving forward. So I think kind of maybe the last question that I want to ask you is, what are you most looking forward to this year from your standpoint? I know you also mentioned some potential partnerships being announced. I know you got East Denver coming up. What are you most excited about this year?
Yeah. I'm really excited about the innovation that we can make now. We've slogged through the last 2 years of building fundamental architecture that needed to be made. Hey, no one can mint. Okay, well that's not great. Hey, there's no wallet. That's not great. Hey, there's no way to launch these things. That's not great. So all of those has been solved, and we're not even at a place where it's by one. We have multiple wallets, we have multiple launch pads, we have multiple marketplaces, and it's amazing to see. We even have metaverses being built out. So where we're at now, and I think there's even a live example of something that's not really doable on other networks. Um, it's innovate. We're going to innovate using our very very fast DLT that to do things that are not possible on other networks, and we're going to build value by being at the forefront of what is NFT use cases, whether that be enterprise or consumer. Um, a good example is this just came online, but if you've been following Pangu Pals and Degen Land, they have a land NFT that gives you access to a land plot. That land plot, then you stake their NFTs and earn PAL coin. You use those PAL coins to buy things in the game. The more you build, the more your experience points go up, and then they pay out all of the H bar to the people that play the game based on the level you are. And this mechanism would not make sense on Ethereum because all of the gas fees it would take to do all of these things together for a user to make it a play to earn game is impossible. And that's why they chose Hedera to build it here. And it just, they're still minting on Zeus, it just went live. But it's a really good snapshot of a use case that is theoretically possible, but not really built out anywhere else because the costs don't make sense. And that's what we're going to continue to see is these theoretical things that are too costly elsewhere being created here, and then things that no one has thought about because of the restrictions of the trilemma or whatever. It's got to happen this year, and so we're going to become a top five coin through innovation and changing what people look at DLTs for use cases, and being on the front lines of how you can use this technology to better people's lives at the end of the day.
Along those same lines, I just wanted to jump in here real quick. I was actually curious what you thought about this Shopify. I think it was Shopify that was going to be integrating Hedera connectivity. I'm not sure if you know anything about it, but I just saw it the other day. I wasn't sure. It just kind of hits on this point of enterprise kind of adoption. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I saw that. I think I saw it on It's Brandon with Hashgraph enthusiasts. Shameless shill. That It's Brandon is amazing. Brandon Davenport, amazing person in Hedera. It's Brandon.com/hashgraph dash enthusiasts is a great sign up. He goes over every week all of the news in Hedera. It's crazy, all the things. I learned so much from that, and that's where I saw that. That's huge. I mean, Shopify is the POS system for most web companies at this point. even like really big brands still use Shopify because it's just so much easier than building out your own. So them having adoption and easy adoption of Hedera is magnificently huge. And I could only think of, I've built 3PL logistic software before, and had I had Hedera, oh my God, it would have been so much cheaper and cooler and safer, and, more secure. So I can only imagine the use cases that Shopify would have for Hedera. So I'm very excited to see what hits the market, and I guarantee they'll definitely have a meaningful impact on TPS whenever whatever they build goes live.
I want to also give a shout out. We have Orbis 86 here, but I have to give a shout out to one of the old school HBAR community members down there who does have a mint going on today as well. Obviously, not financial advice to anybody, but Batty Hattie has Generation H going live today through Hedera Sentient. If you guys want to, or Valor, if we could pin up something from Batty down there, that would be fantastic. And Patches, I know your voice is dead. And I'm sorry for asking you like the most ridiculously like obtuse questions in the world, which was like, hey, how do you feel about tomorrow and the rest of the next 5 years? But we always really appreciate you coming up, and please feel free to hang out.